Montenegro, the Black Mountains. Seated on the Adriatic within the heart of the Balkans, it has been the crossroads for civilizations and empires. This is a country with a rich and unspoiled past. The remains of these cultures from hundreds to thousands of years ago stretch far beyond its shores. Today, these resources are beginning to play their part in piecing together this fragmented past which has remained here silently on the seabed.
The objectives of the Montenegrin Maritime Archaeological Research Project are essentially twofold with respect to the archaeology. We've got two sites, Malivik Bay and Bigovica. They're both very different, very contrasting. Malivik Bay, we have already known about the location of some of these large blocks that sit under the water in about 4 metres of depth of water. And Bigovica, on the other hand, has been known for decades as a place where people have recovered large numbers of amphora and material, ceramic material from the seabed. So the two sites are quite different. Bigovica is very small, it's quite a sheltered little anchorage, and the objective there is to try and characterise the seabed in terms of the range of material, chronological range, and through that characterisation see if we can identify either specific shipwrecks or the nature and the function of that small anchorage. Malivik Bay, on the other hand, is a very different situation. We've found these large blocks sitting on the seabed and we don't really know what the nature of them is, we don't know the function of them, we don't know how they got there, whether they were actually deposited as a result of a shipwreck or whether they were something that has been eroded through land erosion that's ended up in the sea. So the objective at Malivik Bay is to record the blocks in situ and try and work out the seabed geography, the seabed geomorphology, to see if we can actually establish how these blocks ended up being on the sea there.
Should we just have a little look inside of the stream here? The same kind of phenomenon that Mladen had found over at Bar.
Of having Neolithic 12 metres below the surface.
Yes, we may have archaeology buried underneath it.
Be careful with snakes.
You see the soil level on the top, and it's either been flashed out recently. Yeah. Some of these easily erodible shales, and then one big event just take this out.
There is a legend that old people used to say that everything was under the water. And all of this was under the water and the houses were
on the coast.
Yes, I said she's the old person building their houses.
I mean, I've worked extensively throughout the Mediterranean, particularly in the sort of eastern Mediterranean, and I have to admit that the wealth of material on the seabed in all the sites that we've visited so far is just outstanding. I think the potential for mapping and understanding the archaeological nature, the signature of the material in this area is huge, actually. If we look at the overall objectives of the Malivik Bay Archaeological Research Project, one of the key things that is very important for me is to try and build capacity for training and expertise in maritime archaeology in the region. We're working with some very professional land-based terrestrial archaeologists. There are also a number of students in the team, and all of whom are very keen to learn much more about maritime archaeology, and so this is really, I think the potential is there, but obviously they have no experience to date, and hopefully we can sort of marry these two sets of expertise, the local knowledge of the terrestrial archaeology and our maritime expertise, in order to actually start establishing projects in the region to train up the young students and to bring maritime archaeology to life along the Montenegrin coast. In terms of what we're going to be doing next, in my mind, once we've done certainly the petrological analysis of the blocks on Malivik Bay, in Malivik Bay, I think we could probably, we've surveyed the area, I think we'll probably be able to work out the nature of that site. Bigovica, on the other hand, I think holds huge potential. It's an excellent training ground for young students as well, because it's relatively shallow, there's a huge amount of material on the seabed, and I think there are some quite interesting questions to answer in terms of the sort of the seabed morphology as well. So I think that's a particularly good area that we should continue working in for the reasons of understanding the archaeology archaeology, but also because it offers the potential for training. And I think ultimately I would like to introduce more sort of structured training courses, particularly through the diving centre, so that we can encourage divers to learn more about archaeology, and most importantly, archaeologists to dive so that they can translate their skills underwater. The final objective, from my perspective, is also to do with trying to build capacity in the region on a much broader scale. I mean, the Adriatic coast is one where we've witnessed huge potential, but there are varying degrees of expertise in the region. Albania doesn't really have any maritime archaeology as such at the moment. Croatia, on the other hand, neighbours to the north, already have a centre in Zadar, and what I would hope that we can achieve in the next year or so is to establish some sort of funding base that brings these different parties together, so that the Adriatic is seen as working as one, as it were, towards protecting and promoting their underwater cultural heritage.